No Guns Life. I mentioned it last week how I thought just the whole Cronin and Juzo relationship, it felt like a good buddy cop where they keep butting heads, but they are really effective partners. This episode really flexes that even more. I'm loving these two characters. I love how synchronized they are, despite constantly insulting, berating, and even wanting to attack one another. And as we've seen with their introduction, they already have attacked one another. But it feels like they are so well connected despite being so polar opposite, and I sort of love it. I'll be honest, this episode blue balls me because I thought, okay, the person we were trying to attack, the extended, he got away. I truly thought it would be next week that we would fight him, as that's kind of how it's been up to this point. They kind of set you up for a big action spectacle, they tease you, and then the next week that's what happens. And then halfway through, they reintroduce him, basically hiding on Juzo's back, and then we get the bloody action. I was like, okay, I'll be honest, I was a little disappointed trying to convince myself it was okay we didn't get the extended on extended action. And then they actually delivered it, and it was actually pretty insane. And the fact that it's not even over yet, because, the army commander there is deciding that if the secrets get out, if he has too much of his sanity, the economy is going to crash and they won't be able to continue their experimentation, and the secrets will just kind of ruin them. Politics, am I right? I love this episode. It was just incredibly fun, and there's just so many little moments. The whole cigarette situation, Juzo has argued that it was just for show. During the intro, he's like, I just like the taste of them, but it definitely has been revealed 100% that no, those cigarettes are definitely helping his body, which apparently is pretty cheaply made, stay alive, but also potentially suppressing memories, which I always love those moments. There's some sort of dark past in his mind, and he's basically using some form of substance to ease the tension, and they have some nice little comedic timing with Tetsuro and things like that, him doing a loud screaming so he could get the cigarettes through the door and then he could basically find him. There's a lot of little simple moments, Olivier, and just how she was getting fired as being the director, and how now if basically Juzo does anything wrong, there's going to be no one to clean up his mistakes, right? There's all these little things that you can definitely tell is going to be relevant for the future of the story and just the connections that are being formed or potentially being shattered. But when you get that confrontation with Juzo and how this dude's metal as hell, I love how he trusts in his new buddy cop partner so much that he's willing to basically destroy his body because he believes it's the only way that will be able to reveal the subbrain, and he knows that his new buddy cop friend Cronin is going to be able to hit the nerve because he's basically studied all extendeds, or at least a good majority of them, so he knows where each extended pretty much keeps their kind of weak spot, things like that. I just love how this episode, it honestly felt like the most brutal that we've seen in terms of the combat, because when you have extended on extended, yeah, we've seen some before, but to actually have such payoff and such brutality, the sparks, the cracks, just it felt like machinery just clashing together, and you just kind of had to watch in a distance. Hell, that's what the army guy was doing himself. He was just kind of watching in awe, sometimes a little bit in terror, because basically you can get stabbed, you can get just destroyed by such a monster who, if he didn't lose his mind, probably would be kind of regarded as a hero the same way this other extended is, right? But because he lost his mind, because he's probably being manipulated in some way, he's become this Dr. Octopus looking monster that unfortunately seems like the only way that you could probably stop him is by killing him. But should you capture him alive, then you might be able to get the ex-director back into being the director role, which it's just so wild to see how this anime is so goofy, it's so silly, it's got this wild aesthetic and just such classic designed fight scenes where characters stand around talking before they start punching again, but then it actually has this really interesting political story and post-war drama type tale, and it's mixing and matching both a serious and completely anime, ridiculous, goofy story all wrapped up into one, and it's why it's so unique for 2019 in general. It feels so wild, it feels so goofy that if you were to explain this show to someone who's never watched it, they're gonna be like, this sounds so stupid, but kind of fun, guess I gotta watch it. But then when you actually break down the layers and the character motivations, there is a lot of serious subject matter and actually really exhilarating plot lines. It's just such a weird combination of styles that generally shouldn't work, but somehow it does, and I can understand why so many who read the manga were kind of hyping up this series before it ultimately got released, because it's kind of wild. I just love seeing Juzo go in. He was just basically just punching a lot. He was going JoJo with it, just punching and punching and punching until basically he couldn't defend anymore and his subbrain would be revealed, and then ultimately, of course, we get the whole needle prick. And it's so wild to say that, like, even though it's just like monstrous machines hitting each other really hard, sometimes having a creative move like their arms are basically like almost tentacles, and you could say, and just how they do have some uniqueness to them, but it is just giant machines almost clashing with one another. But when they really go in with the animation, it's a really pleasing scene overall. It's really eye candy. And then when you get those more simplistic banter moments, it just feels rewarding. It feels like it's not just like an exciting show because it has some cheesy one-liners or it has some fun action here or there. It's like, it's the combination of all the little elements that just makes No Guns Life into a show that I really like, and I think it's a shame not more people are checking it out. And as I've been saying, I'm hoping that by the time the first season wraps up, as we await the second, people will jump aboard this more and just try it. And I definitely think a dub will help this. I think Funimation might be dubbing this. I think there's only a couple episodes that might be dubbed as of right now, maybe no episodes dubbed as of right now. But I definitely do feel like this is a show that once it gets an English dub, it's gonna get a lot more traction. Because it does feel like a show that you would see on like Adult Swim, right? It just feels like something that people would be talking about. It has like a cult following sort of a thing. I just love this show. It's just so absolutely wild. And it's nice to say that at this point in the show, even though Juzo has been like my go-to character, he's the one I'm watching the show for, at this point, I'm really liking the cast. I like Mary, I like Tetsuro, I like, basically, probably second favorite character at this point, our buddy cop, Cronin. I love this man. He has a mixture of mad scientist and incredible enforcer policeman all wrapped up into one, and it's gonna be sad if they don't interact more, both him and Juzo, because they are so synchronized despite being so dysfunctional on a personality level, and I can't be the only one who's enjoying their banter, because just watching them walk towards that door, like you knew there was going to be a betrayal at that point, but him watching the fight beforehand, I didn't see that betrayal coming until they started walking, and it was a lot more ominous, like, oh, this door isn't automatic, things like that. But just watching their simplistic banter and how they keep insulting and saying, like, you know, if I wasn't here, this would have all went to shit. And he's like, well, I was just leaving you something to do because you needed something to do because you're just so lazy. Like, there's just all this, like, one-liners and back and forth banter. They're butting heads. They feel like frenemies, and it almost feels like they've known each other for a lifetime, and they've always just kind of butted heads since they were kids, right? Those are the kinds of relationships you really remember in anime. Something that feels so memorable. You look at it from an outside level and you say, you guys are being so stupid, so childish, but in their own little weird bubble and world, it feels like the most serious and bizarre thing to them that they know they're in the right and the other guy's in the wrong, right? Those are the types of relationships that you don't see too often anymore, but you can definitely understand why you would see it in a show like this, which feels so 90-esque. It has that retro style, that retro aesthetic, the retro storytelling in general. And the fact that characters take a break to talk as they basically insult the person, saying why you're going to lose this battle, as you think in the back of your mind, well, he could just punch him right now instead of just talking, but that wouldn't be that cheesy 90s feel that we kind of want from this series at this point in time. Because there's no way that you've got this far into No Guns Life and you don't like its cheesy charm. Cheesy isn't always a bad thing, and No Guns Life rolls with it exceptionally well, and then it mixes in this wild storytelling that's actually pretty serious, like 30 to 40% of the time, with the remaining 60% just being completely batshit insane. And I kind of love it. I'm kind of interested to see where Tetsuro and the director are going to go, because like he kind of just knocks out her pretty much bodyguard slash I'm going to keep an eye on you because we can't trust you. Like, where's that going to go? Are they going to get incorporated into this like army fight, or are they going to get there with the aftermath? Like, there's definitely a lot of wild things that could happen next week. I would be surprised if we get another long fight scene next week, as this is kind of unheard of for No Guns Life. Usually when they tease you with a fight, they give it to you the following week after, but with this episode, they definitely teased us, and then they got us to drop our guard as they just explosively explode. Basically, Juzo's back, and we're like, okay, we're actually getting the action set piece, which was really, really fun. I've seen a lot of people compliment the OST in this series, and rightfully so. There's so much, like, almost jazzy instrumentals, and just there's so many tracks that are just so in your face, but at the same time they creep in the background. It feels so unique. It feels as if it's one of those soundtracks that if you were to remove it from No Guns Life, show it to someone, have them listen to it in full, I doubt they would predict it was a soundtrack for a show about a bunch of modified humans with one of your main characters having a revolver as a head. It just doesn't feel like it would be for a classic cheesy actually kind of serious 90s-like show, but it works so well in execution. It's one of those things that a lot of times with anime soundtracks, they get incorporated and the music is disposable. It doesn't fit with the anime and you could replace it with any basic bitch soundtrack. You couldn't do that with No Guns Life. The music works hand in hand with the storytelling, the presentation, the characters in general, but you wouldn't think it would if you hadn't watched No Guns Life and you were to just listen to the music. And that's a testament to how strong the musical direction, the score is overall. It's something that knows how to bring such a unique atmosphere to such a unique world. No Guns Life, you can't really compare it to a lot of anime as of modern day. Sure, in the past, absolutely, but with what you typically see with modern production, this doesn't feel like what you would see in 2019 or in the following years or the past years. But that's what's so great about this production. It makes you think that it can't work, but then somehow it does. And that's why I've always had a blast watching the show since episode 1. I've been laughing, I've been grinning, I've been kind of sweating at times, and I've been just cheering like a sports fan, being like, this action is totally badass. Another fun episode, I have to say. I am always having a grin on my face watching No Guns Life, and I can't wait to see where episode 8 is going to go next week. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? What was your favorite moment? Whatever you're feeling, do let me know. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy, and also hit that subscribe button if you have any news. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.